In Cochise County. Welcome to the Michael Zehr Show. Today is Friday, January 21st, 2022. Can't believe it's 2022 already. Can you believe it? Holy
I
mackerel.
know. It's insane. It's crazy.
So I'm sporting my new shirt that I got today. I bought it at Wicked Limits. Got the logo right here, the Warrior Healing Center logo, and the hat.
Pretty
So
stylish.
yeah, I thought I'd try to rep the center, get the word out a
Yeah.
little bit more.
Good job, sir.
So I appreciate it. Thank you. So today's guest is Jerry Courier. Jerry is a veteran, works out of the Warrior Healing Center here, and does the Arizona at Work with your partner in crime, Kevin McFadden. And
Yeah.
I got to say, I just hear so many good things about you and Kevin and the work that you guys do at Arizona at Work. So I would love to touch on that today, if we could.
No worries.
All right. So let's get to know a little bit about Jerry Courier. Oh, I keep forgetting this. I'm sorry. One last thing. If you are watching us live streaming here, if you have any questions for Jerry or myself, please put it down here in the comment section, and I'll see it, post it up on the video, pass it on, and we'll get your question answered.
Yeah.
Or if you're watching it after the live stream, you can also comment, because we do watch the feeds and try to respond there as well. So having said all of that, Jerry, thank you so much, sir, for joining us.
My
Appreciate it
pleasure to
today.
be on. Thank you for having me.
Oh, well,
Appreciate it.
we had another veteran scheduled for today,
Yeah.
and she couldn't make it because she became sick.
Oh,
So
wow.
I appreciate the fact that you are willing to help us out.
No worries.
And actually, if I'm not mistaken, I was supposed to interview you last month anyways, and you
I
weren't
called
feeling
sick.
well or something.
Yeah, I wasn't feeling well. As Kevin said, well, you're just playing hooky. No, I'm sick. Whatever, Kevin. I'm sticking to my story.
Yeah. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
So, Jerry, where are you from originally?
Well, I was born in Missouri.
Missouri, Midwest.
Yeah, my dad was deployed to Vietnam at the time, so we relocated to my mom's side of her family. Eventually moved out here in the early 70s and wound up graduating from Tombstone High School.
Tombstone High School. Wow, what year?
87.
Class of 87,
Well,
okay.
Well, let me back up. Wound up having to get my GED. We'll just leave it at that. But,
Okay,
yeah,
well, I did the
class
same
of
thing,
87.
so, but...
Yeah.
And what inspired you to join the Army? Was it your dad? I mean, was there any of the family?
Kind of a little, all of the above in a way. Military family.
Right.
But at the time, I was in the process of wanting to go into the Marines, and my wife, my girlfriend at the time, we wound up. Long story short, wound up joining the Arizona Army National Guard, and then I eventually went on active duty. Stayed on active duty for a very long time. ETS, moved home, and then eventually went back and finished up in the reserves.
I shouldn't have made the assumption that you joined the Army. I should have asked you what was your military.
Well, there's only one branch.
So.
There's only one branch. It's true.
Okay.
Honestly, it's just the Army. So
I loved it at Christmas time with the Christmas tree out front when they had the ornament. And they were moving it around and had the Marines at the top and then the Army.
Whatever.
So when you enlisted, what was your job?
I was an 88 Mike.
Which is
truck driver.
Truck driver, okay.
It was a love-hate relationship, I think.
What did you drive?
Well, first I started off in the National Guard. I was in a fuel unit, and then I transferred to field artillery. And we drove, in those days, 5 tons and deuce and halves. And then when I transitioned to active duty, I was mechanized infantry for 5 years, and we drove HIMMETs. Cargo limits. It's kind of a weird looking vehicle. The cab sits in front of the engine, and
really
the wheels set a little bit. They set under the engine behind the cab. So it looks like you ever remember that show Space 1999? Some of the vehicles. That's what it reminds me of, kind of. But it was a long cargo bed where we could have up to, I believe it was about 8 pallets of ammunition, various types of ammunition. And
So it was an ammunition hauler?
Yeah, and we had a
Okay.
crane on the back end of the vehicle that we could upload, download our ammo and stuff.
Oh, wow. And you did that for how long?
I was in what we called a support platoon or S&T platoon,
Okay.
and I did that for 5 years. Deployed to the Gulf War with the 24th ID, and then then I went to Korea, did line haul company, came back, was in Fort Stewart again in armor this time, doing ammunition.
What did you do in the Gulf?
I
Was that, well, let me ask you this. Were you on reserve status that
No,
got activated, or were
was
you actual Army?
I was active duty.
Okay.
I hadn't really been at Fort Stewart very long when we deployed.
Okay.
It was so when we got to Saudi Arabia and we started moving forward to our assembly areas. We were
Okay.
broken down by who you're going to be supporting. So
Right.
I had the amazing privilege of supporting our scouts and mortar section. So what would happen is we would be loaded according to who you were supporting. There was 2 of us.
Okay.
So for the scouts and for headquarters company, we would have a various like so many mortar rounds, so many what we call 25 mic for the scout vehicles, small arms,
Okay.
AT4s, things like that. And the premise was that once the war was progressing, we would flip-flop between our forward field trains and our combat trains. Our combat trains, forward field trains. So we would do hot drops. That was the premise of what we were assigned to do.
So was that like resupplying ammunition?
Yeah.
Then is what you're?
Yeah, so once your counterpart was empty, you would replace him or up there and just get reloaded. And that's the premise of what we were trained to do.
When you were there, did you have to do a lot of driving?
Yes and no. For the first few months, we sat in our alphas a lot, and it was more just going back and forth to the support battalions primarily. Once in a while, we would have to go back to division rear to do things, but that didn't happen that often.
I was wondering because you said that when you went over there, you were in Saudi Arabia,
For
right?
a while. Mm-hmm.
And I was just kind of curious, like what the roads were like over there compared to what they are here in the States and stuff like that.
It would depend on primarily what we there. I guess you'd call them interstates.
Okay.
Not bad, and then to where all the maneuver units was. I like to say a 2-lane road, if that, but pretty
Okay.
much they were old roads, kind of beat up, and then a lot of times where we were at, the hardball would stop, and it would be all chicken trails, dirt trails.
Right.
The engineers came in and created the main supply route, MSRs, and that's how we got around primarily.
And after Saudi Arabia, after you were there, did you go anywhere else in the Gulf?
No, we redeployed home.
Redeployed home? How
and
long were
then-
you there for?
Oh shoot, we deployed in August, I believe. I can't believe it's been over 30 years.
I know,
We deployed in August. We deployed in August, and then I came home. Oh shoot, I think it was March. I can't remember.
So you're a Gulf War veteran then?
Desert Storm.
Desert Storm. So when you're over there supporting with the ammunition and things like that, did you come in any like contact with the enemy or anything like that? Did you come under any kind of fire? Or just kind of curious if.
Well, so what was interesting, and I think this the transitioning from the Vietnam era mindset of fighting, I guess.
Right.
I was assigned to the 24th Infantry Division, and primarily, I guess, we were trained for desert operations. We were part of the 18th Airborne Corps. We were the heavy maneuver element of the 18th Airborne Corps.
Okay.
So basically, our job was to support and provide whatever armor assets they needed. But when we deployed to the Gulf War to Saudi Arabia, it was going to be a mechanized operation primarily, and it was the largest mechanized they had conducted, I believe, since World War II, and I could be wrong, but it was a huge operation.
Right.
So the battlefield moved very quickly. We were not. I think we were surprised how fast everything went down. That the Iraqis kind of just folded up, and we just rolled up as we went along. But it was very surreal, I guess, because it was, as a young soldier, you're like, oh my goodness, what the heck is.
You train for it, but when you're actually in the fire or in the action or whatever, it's like it's good you have the training, but it's,
no, you're right. And that muscle memory, but and I always think it's funny. It is true. Muscle memory does kick in, and I thought that was kind of interesting, And then you see the aftermath of, say, an airstrike or an armor battle or whatever. It's wow. It's very impressive.
I was at home at the time watching it on TV, and it was like one of the first wars that was broadcasted on live TV because they had all these news media people just plastered all over the place. And I remember watching a lot of the Iraqi troops coming up and surrendering to cameramen and civilians and stuff like that. So
we were moving, I think it was day 2. I don't remember. It might be day 2, but we were rolling and we had caught up with our combat field trains so quickly. And so we did a rest halt, a security halt, and we're standing there, and you had these Iraqis. We didn't know what to do with them.
Right.
And they would just want to surrender, and we're like, we would just point that way where the MPs were collected. It would just see gaggles all day long. I mean, it was just, it's like, wow. We were caught off guard, I guess.
Saddam wanted to fight, but the rest of the country didn't.
Well, yeah, and I don't think they were prepared for what they got.
Yeah.
In my son, I was talking to my son about this, and I think the most impressive thing I ever saw was, as far as the eye could see, mechanized forces units. It's just everywhere. And to see that on the move, someone's getting a butt whooping very quickly, and it's going to end very badly for them.
And then we had the airstrikes, too, that went in and softened a lot of that up also.
Yeah.
I remember, I think it was General Schwarzkopf, he wanted to go in and finish it, but President Bush at the time said, no, we did what we needed to do, and let's back out.
And I sometimes wonder, was that the right thing or wrong? Because we had them where we wanted them. But, we're good soldiers. We follow our orders.
And the country ended up dealing with Hussein, didn't they? I think so.
For a while, until we got rid of him in OIF eventually. Finished it up.
So you're done with at the Gulf War. You get sent back to the States then?
Yeah.
And what's next?
It was weird. We redeployed home. My wife came... she had went home with our family, and we had 2 boys at the time, and so she came out to Fort Stewart and just readjusted.
Did they have a nice reception for the troops coming home?
It was kind of neat. It really was.
Good.
And so Fort Stewart, we had this thing where, you get picked up at Hunter Army Airfield. They bus you to Fort Stewart. We had, this huge parade field. And so the soldiers would line up. You march across the field. There's your family. Well, I didn't know my wife was there at the time. Well, I kind of did, but I didn't. My platoon sergeant's wife had called her and said, hey, Jerry's coming home. You need to get out here. And so she stayed with my platoon sergeant's wife at the time. And so it was just kind of funny. Looking for Linda, and I see her, and so I just kind of walk up behind her and tap her on the shoulder.
Surprise!
Yeah, here I am. I looked like she just kind of looked at me because Oh shoot! I think well, kind of hard to believe that, but I weighed like 120 pounds. I lost so much weight,
Uh-huh.
but yeah.
How
And
long had you two been apart at that time?
oh shoot, it was more than I'd say between 7, 9 months, maybe.
Uh-huh.
I don't like I said, it's been a long time ago, but we had been separated for a while.
So knowing that you're coming home and seeing her, she knew you that you were there, but then when she saw you, I think
Yeah.
she was just kind of stunned at the fact, wow, my husband's finally
Yeah,
home,
and
and yeah,
it's weird because at the time we were told, "Hey, you're not coming home until this is done." And a lot of us, our fathers had been in Vietnam, and we were originally. It was brought up in a meeting this morning we were on, and they did their 1 year tours or whatever, came home. Well, we were told, "You're not coming home until this is done."
right.
So some of us thought, "Oh man, this is going to be a long time," and then during that deployment, it's kind of funny. Everything was done by letters. We didn't have emails or anything like we do
Didn't have cell
now.
phones, and well,
Yeah,
yeah,
so the communication back and forth could take a little bit of time because we had all the free. We just put free on your envelopes and stuff. So when you come home, it is kind of it's odd. It's weird because you haven't seen each other in such a long time.
and I always say this, and I always feel bad for our Vietnam veterans because they didn't get a nice welcoming home,
Exactly.
and I think that our country learned from that and was
Well,
embarrassed by how they were treated. And like when this happened and they came home, I felt that our country was more like
it,
patriotic and just
it
wanted to.
was, and I think, and I don't know. I heard this in a meeting one time in a briefing, and I think it's true. Our senior leadership that we went to war with, Vietnam veterans, and they
Mhm.
learned, hey, look, this is not how we do business. Our training was amazing. We understood the light at the end of the tunnel concept, and a lot of us, especially in my section, our dads had been in Vietnam, and so for us, it was okay. We saw what our fathers went through, experienced. That's not going to happen no more. We're
Right.
done with that. That was wrong. Because they served their country honorably. They did the right thing.
Yep.
They answered and so we looked at it from the aspect of kind of regaining our honor, I guess. I hope that makes sense.
It
That we
does. Yeah.
we were we were the sons and daughters of these veterans, and this was to us the right thing. This was the honorable thing to do.
Well, and you saw firsthand the effect that the Vietnam War had on your
Hmm.
dad,
Both my dad
and
and grandfather were in
yeah,
Vietnam, and
yeah. So
so
then you've seen that, and then so as you're a soldier, I think that those lessons were learned, like what you were talking about,
hmm
and I don't know. I just think it was a much
it
better reception
we
coming home and stuff.
it was interesting because when we flew home, we landed in Maine, I think it was, and we had again, like I said, some of our senior leadership,
Hmm.
and we had a couple juniors who had been in Vietnam but then came back in the army years later, and so it was very moving. Where my buddies and I were standing in the airport, and you had these people there, and it felt like kind of like, oh wow, we're rock stars, we're kind of a big deal now.
Yeah,
But we were like, you know what, let these guys go get that. They deserve this more than we do. They didn't get that homecoming. So we're just like, you know what, it's your moment. That's
is
kind of the way we thought.
is your dad still with us?
No, he passed
No.
away when I deployed in, oh no, 2010.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's
But
quite all
the
right.
fact that he served his country, and uh, a lot of Vietnam veterans that come here in the center, you talk to them and listen to their stories and stuff, and I feel it's such an honor and a privilege to talk to these
Well,
veterans when they come in
you
and share
know,
these stories.
and I feel, and I heard this in a briefing, and I think it's true. These soldiers, these veterans, they served. They held the line for so many years to an ungrateful nation.
Yes.
They did. They held the line. They took the brunt, and now my generation, I feel it's like we got this. We got this. But and it's kind of funny because three of my sons served. Two are still on active duty. My oldest and my youngest. And it's interesting talking to them, and they ask questions and stuff. And now
Right.
I'm retired. I retired out of the reserves. And now it's like you're holding, now it's on you. We passed the torch to you. It's just really, it's interesting.
When I was a kid, I was like maybe in middle school, and when Vietnam had first started, and there was a campaign that had just come out where you had these bracelets where you could
Mm-hmm.
wear for the POWs, and I
Yeah.
had mine, and I I love our country, I do, and I think that freedom of speech is very important. I think the right to protest if you don't agree with something is a right that we have in this country.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't like the way the protests went for the Vietnam veterans. I didn't like how they were treated and how
No,
things went down at that
I
time.
remember. Oh shoot. My dad was from, I forget the name of the place, this small town in Texas. I think it was Tyler, Texas. It was
Texas.
something like that.
Okay.
Little farming community, I guess, the way I understand the story. And so he came home. He did 3 tours, and he came home on one of his tours. I don't know which one, but the way the story goes, these were kids that he grew up with. He went to high school with. He knew them his whole life.
Right.
Um, they would see him coming down the street, and they would literally cross the road to go to the other. They wouldn't have nothing to do with it.
That's horrible.
It is, and
Horrible.
and it's unbelievable, and it's so wrong because someone
Right.
makes a decision to, in their mind, to do what they feel is the right thing to do, honorable thing to do, and these men and women they serve their country. You may not agree with the conflict, or you may not agree with the politics. Why are you torturing these individuals who are just doing their duty?
They're following orders.
The people, yeah, they're following order. The people and I apologize. I don't mean to apologize. The people in the White House are the ones who should be held accountable,
Right.
not the little
Right.
Joe Blow.
And my memory, I don't remember who the president was at the time. I don't know if it was Johnson or it might have been Nixon when we did pull out of
Mm-hmm.
Vietnam. So then when this thing happened in Afghanistan and we pulled out, kind of similar and leaving all that stuff behind. And so a lot of the Vietnam veterans knew what that feeling was
Right.
like, and they stepped up as a support group and said, "Hey, you
Yeah.
veterans that yeah,
It's interesting you bring that up because I deployed to Iraq. That was
right,
where I worked and that sort of stuff. My son and nephew had done Afghanistan, and I was talking to my brother. He had done well. He was a GS civilian, but he'd been to Iraq and Afghanistan. We're talking about this, and I remember as a little boy watching on the news the fall of Saigon. And my dad, at the time, my dad and grandfather were very upset,
right,
very distraught, and you couldn't really talk to them at all. They would it was very emotional time for them. As a kid, I didn't understand. You're watching this, what's the problem? So what? We're not there no more. But I think I was maybe 6 or so. And so fast forward to Afghanistan, it's like, oh wow. I remember seeing this. I remember watching. It's basically the same thing happening, and to see our military, that it's an amazing institution. We serve honorably. We
yes,
do our duty.
yep.
There's times we may question things, but at the end of the day, we do what we're asked.
You do
and
what you're told, and then you question
Yes.
it later, and yeah,
But to see this happen or see this go down this way, it would have been fine, I feel, if it had been a very organized, if it had been say, hey, look, we got to go home. We're done here. Got it. But there's so, I watched this, and it's interesting because Vietnam does rear its head from time to time.
right,
And to me, that was just so, for about a week, it was very upsetting. It really was. Because, the Army doesn't do this. I mean, this is something we don't. It was just very hard to deal with.
right. Well, and with our Vietnam veterans, they like I said, they have stepped up and kind of helped the
Amazing
Afghanistan.
support.
But one of the things I remember watching I don't normally watch the news because I don't like mainstream media because they're very opinionated.
Hmm.
And I like to try and think for myself, right or wrong. I like to try and think for myself, not being
Not
told
allowed
how
to
to
do that
think.
anymore.
So, what I was getting at, though, I remember watching this image of this Afghanistan lady handing her baby up to the military service. I think it was the army that was there in
Yeah, I think it was
Kabul or something like that.
it was the
I think
Marines, I believe.
the Marines. So, and then I flashed back to seeing an image similar to that in Vietnam, where a lady was handing her Vietnamese baby,
Exactly.
yeah, to the
I
serv.
I I watched a documentary, and it was an amazing documentary and a very depressing one at the same time, talking about the withdrawal from Saigon.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were just to the comparisons to me was just so scary. It was just oh my goodness.
Yes.
We're repeating this all over again. This broken record. And it was just you know being a retired soldier now, and I do speak my opinion a lot more that this is wrong to ask our soldiers to do it this way. To go give them the mission, let them conduct a mission. They will do it very successfully, but yeah, I'm going to be quiet.
The reason I brought all this up, and I love talking about this with you with Vietnam and Afghanistan and Iraq and all that. The reason I brought this up is because I know that at Arizona at work, you're helping a lot of these veterans,
We
even
do.
Vietnam veterans, with like trying to get employment
So
and
yeah, so what we do as we're DVOP, Disabled Veteran Outreach Program. So our job I usually say a veteran workforce specialist is to assist transitioning veterans, spouses, and veterans in breaking down barriers to employment. Um, Normally, I'll tell people it could be as simple as maybe just need a resume, training, boom, done. However, with a lot of our SBEs, significant barriers to employment, it can be very challenging. And one of the things we've seen over the years is that it's not uncommon to see a veteran with multiple deployments. It,
right.
it's insane. Maybe uh, back in the day where it was normal to just do one deployment, call it a day, and maybe to see someone with two or three deployments, that was a rarity. However, you fast forward to today.
You've seen like 4 and 5
Oh my goodness,
deployments. Yeah.
my brother is a GS civilian. We joke with each other. I think he has like 10 to 13. It's insane amount of deployments, um, but that's the norm. And so sometimes I think when a veteran comes home from deployments, well, they get. I I did two back-to-back deployments in '08, '09, and then I was home for a very brief period of time. I remobilized again, deployed in 10 and 11. And so for me, it was as a reservist, it was insane.
Right.
I had a very difficult time reintegrating, I guess. I remember joking about this. I joke about it now, but I came home in '09. I'm sitting in my office. I'm like, holy crap, 2 weeks ago, I ran my last convoy. And now I'm sitting in an office.
Yeah.
And, and so for me, those barriers, because as a DVOP, we have the same issues that a lot of our clients do. And it is very interesting to sit down and listen. And some of these clients, it's like, I tell people the military is amazing at programming you, but they suck at deprogramming.
Right.
Because they tell you, well, you got the VA. Just go to the VA when you get out. It's okay. That's what they're there for. And so this veteran comes in, and they're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
And so it's, to me, so that's kind of what we do. We get them to a point where they can go to work.
Well, please correct me wrong if I'm wrong, because I very well could be wrong. But I don't think PTSD was like diagnosed for our Vietnam veterans in the 60s and the 70s. I don't think PTSD was actually.
I know at one point, what was it, combat fatigue,
Yeah,
things like that. I
right,
think you're right. I mean, it, I don't like that term.
right.
My opinion is just me. To me, it's not a disorder. You've had a traumatic experience, a high
Yes.
stress environment, and that's just my opinion. And it's just interesting. I feel that it's challenging. Trying to be polite, how I say this, it's challenging for that veteran to say, they get out of the military, they just want to put it behind them. They go to college, they do whatever, and next thing you know, you're in an office or you're working in an environment that maybe the majority of the people have never served, which that's
Right.
awesome. So I feel that a lot of veterans put a mask on because what do I talk about? What do I have in common with it? I may be married, I may have kids, or I have my cat, my dog, but what do we discuss?
They don't know the feeling of camaraderie. They don't know what it's
Yeah,
like to have to serve maybe in a combat zone or something
or
like that. So
or just you do your
support.
time and get out, and
Yeah.
you've never deployed. The military teaches you to function a certain way,
Yep.
and it's very challenging to go back to the person you were before you enlisted.
You can't.
Yeah, it makes you feel
You're
weird.
changed forever. I got to be honest with you. When I enlisted, I was God, what was I? I was 19,
Hmm.
I would almost 20, but um, and I was just a mess, right? And I went in the army, and holy crap! I mean, they just whipped me
Yeah,
into shape, and they made me I feel a better person, a man, soon to be, a husband later. I think
yeah.
that I attribute a lot of that to.
I do. No, you bring up an interesting point. I think it's, I was a young kid. I joined the National Guard, and it was kind of funny talking about Vietnam veterans. The majority, my artillery battalion, excuse me,
Mhm.
my artillery battalion, I was in a service battery, and there was, I think, just about all of them were Vietnam veterans, and
Wow.
it was interesting being around these soldiers, and but you're right, it's you toughen up. You get some thick skin. You're
Yep.
taught to be on work to work on time. You're taught to suck it up, and to push yourself to limits that you've never done before. And it may not, I'm not saying, it's, say for an example, you're doing a convoy to go 24, 48 hours, 72 hours with very little if no sleep, being able to test your limits on what you're able to do. And
Yep.
it's mind-boggling. And you're right, it does make you into a more well-rounded individual, I think. But it also, you develop habits. And I think in some
Like
cases,
drinking coffee every morning.
yeah, yes, exactly. But it's interesting. And some habits are good, some habits are bad.
Right.
Um,
Smoking. That was a bad one.
yes. Oh man, I was. Oh, but I think for me, I was very fortunate. My wife, we've known each other for years. We were kids together, and she was an amazing army wife, and
Hmm.
I I don't know where I would be if I didn't have that support. And I know I'm not the most easiest person probably to
Right.
live with, but I think too that helped in a lot of ways that I had that support. And what a lot of people I think don't understand too is that for a lot of marriages, I think, or relationships, with all these deployments and stuff like that, the war never ends.
Uh huh.
You bring it home,
Yeah.
and trying to put it where it belongs is very challenging.
So when you were done with your military service,
Hmm.
how did you and your wife and at that time decide to stay here in Cochise County? Was that a pretty easy decision because you were
Well,
both from here? Or?
She's not going to agree with me, but
No?
that's okay. We were talking about this the other day. I think it's kind of funny. But anyway, so we're both from here.
Right.
And when I left active duty, in my infinite wisdom, I thought it was a good idea to come back home. We were at Fort Hood, and I think I probably should have stayed in Texas, but that's okay. I will admit that publicly. I was wrong, but
Did you hear that, Linda?
yeah, I admit I was wrong. You were right all along. But we relocated back here, and I think I think it's kind of funny for my transition out of active duty into civilian life. I did everything wrong. I had deployed to Iraq with the 4th ID for OIF.
Okay.
At the time, my wife's mom had passed away, so I came back home on emergency leave. Wound up staying in working in division rear until ETS, and I didn't really plan very well. And so when I came home, I went back overseas as a contractor to get some money coming in,
Okay.
and I wound up going to. I kind of joke about it. I did 3 years as a civilian. I worked contracting. I worked for Schwann's Food. Nothing. I went to college. I didn't really
Find your groove.
Yeah, and then I knew this lady. She was a case manager for the early days of Arizona at work, and so I was going to school. And then she came up to me, ever heard of the VA work study program? And I said, no, I hadn't. And so the office where I started off at into social services, I started as a work study. And I did that for a very long time. And then my manager now, who, Teresa, she's an amazing manager. I just want to say that, maybe some sucker points. I was, I had an easy gig. I really did. It was super easy. I was doing training packets. I had a really good thing going. And so I'm sitting there one time. One of our DevOps had just retired, and so I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, and I'm talking to our receptionist, and we're just sitting there one day, and she was like, "Well, Jerry, why don't you do that?" And I was like, "No, not for me. Don't want. Nope, sorry." And so I go home and I'm talking to Linda, and she was like, "I think you would be really good at that." And I have a horrible habit of second guessing myself, and so
As we all do.
yes, as we all do. But so I wound up applying, and my first few months as a DevOps was very terrifying. It was very terrifying.
What kind of education or training did you have to get that position?
Honestly, basically be a disabled veteran.
Okay.
And so I was torn. Like I said, I picked the wrong degree plan. I didn't take that serious enough.
Right.
And so I love social services. I really do. Helping our brothers and sisters, to me, is very admirable, very important, because
it is. I agree.
I think a lot of organizations bid lip service to our veterans. I truly feel that it's more than, they'll come up to you and say, "Oh, thank you for your service." You don't really mean it. If you really meant it, you would do more.
You'd
would
walk the walk.
Yeah. You get in there, because there's a lot of veterans that need assistance.
I got to tell you, I was working the front desk here last Friday, as I've been helping out every Friday. And there was to me, young veteran that came in, and he was working with you guys, and you sent him out on a job interview, and he went out, and David, he come back, and he was all excited and,
I know.
and happy about how the interview went, and it gives him, to see somebody experiencing that self-esteem and that growth and that positivity.
Exactly.
It's amazing to see.
Well, Kevin and I were joking about that earlier. Last Friday was insane for us. I mean, it was boom, boom, boom. But what I have to give credit where credit is due is that here at the Warrior Healing Center, for the reason the center to be here, because of working with that client last week, that is the importance of the center. I feel every
Amen.
agency it contributed in one way or another. The Vietnam Veterans of America actually was making the phone calls to get him to the interview. We have suits. We gave him a suit. We're working on a resume, all while we're trying to work with our scheduled appointments. And so, but everybody pulled together. I think I'm not sure, I could be wrong, but I think it was 4 different agencies assisting those clients.
Yep.
And it was amazing how, and that is, I give credit to the center. The purpose of the center, that was amazing.
And Kathy and Tim, if you're watching, this gentleman I'm talking about was so happy and so grateful for what this center does and did for him last week that he had tears in his eyes. He was so happy and excited. So good job, Kathy and Tim, for getting this thing started.
I mean,
they don't like to talk about themselves. They don't want the focus on them. But come on, sometimes you have to give credit where credit's due.
Yes, no, I agree, and it's just amazing. We'll bring our fellow DevOps down, give them a tour of the facility, blah blah blah, and they're like, "We need something like this everywhere," and I think we do. This is kind of like the one-stop shop for a veteran. If you look at it, a veteran comes in. If they just need a job, hey, come see Arizona at Work. Or if they need assistance with something else or a food box, whatever, it's the one-stop shop. Hey, I'm about ready to be evicted, or I'm living in my car, or I'm living, my tent out in the desert.
They know where the resources are.
Let's get you into an apartment. Yeah. Let's get you into a house, or you know what? Let's just get you off the street for a while, and we'll kind of take it from there. That, I think, is amazing.
I've talked to Kevin, and I got his point of view. I'd like to get your point of view. The job that you do at Arizona at Work is very important, but what are some of the things that you personally do that you're proud of?
I don't know. I will say this since we're live. I am kind of a big deal. I'm a bigger deal than Kevin. I'm just throw that out there.
You're a what now?
I'm a bigger deal than Kevin.
We know.
He says he's a big deal, but I'm bigger.
Sorry, Kevin. We are just trying to ensure that veterans are taken care of.
Yes. I keep a pretty quiet life. I mean, I spend as much time I can with my wife. We're very fortunate. Our daughter is living with us now, but we live right next door to our son, his family. So we have 10 grandchildren. And
that's awesome.
So we live next door to our son and his kids. And so I think trying to, I know I try, but spend all these years away from home. I think my buddy, out of 20 some years, 11 years overseas, various assignments, deployments, stuff like that. And I think now is trying to spend as much time with my family. To me, that's very important.
Right.
So I think I try to focus a lot on that.
So when a veteran comes in and sits down with you, what type of position are you looking to help him find?
Well, it depends on the veteran itself. So we have to take into consideration the veteran overall. So say, I don't know, hypothetically, say you have a very high disability rating, and, because some of the things you may have done in the military, you just don't really want to do a career anymore. Maybe you just want something kind of easy, maybe just stocking, because you have a disability rating, or maybe so we sit down, we talk to the client, we try to figure out their story and what direction to go from there. So sometimes maybe they just want to go to school. Well, they just want a part-time job while they're going to school. Well, what about doing VA work study, or maybe just getting you some mundane job? So just trying to sit down and talk to the clients and figure out what direction we're going to go with the client.
Can a disabled veteran that is a 100% disabled veteran find employment?
Yes.
Or is there restrictions?
No. Well, yes, they can. So you have two types of ratings. You have a workable, non-workable rating. And if I say anything, please, somebody correct me. If I say anything wrong, I'm trying not to. But you have two types of ratings.
Okay.
So if you have a workable rating, what I tell people is we try to figure out what their rating is.
Okay.
In some cases, what their limitations may be. So from that standpoint, if you're, say, 100% and you have some money coming in, but you're kind of done with the rat race, if you will, and you just want something kind of easy,
right?
And you just kind of make a little bit extra money, we could do that. But there's a lot of people, they want to continue working, they want to maybe stay in a career. But here it's more geared towards, say, information technology, that sort of stuff. So, we'll give them information on if they need certifications, things like that. But what we have noticed, though, lately, over the past 5 years, maybe a little bit longer, is that veterans are coming home, they're exiting in the military, and they're taking the skills that they learned in the Army, and traditionally it used to be maybe post office, federal government, that type of employment. So some of them are taking their experience and maybe thinking outside the box for employment, which is really interesting.
Okay.
Just kind of going that route. So we sit down with them, give them some ideas on how to pursue those options.
So if a veteran comes in and let's say he's, I don't know, maybe a 50% disabled veteran, and he doesn't want to do what he did in the military,
Mm-hmm.
Do you have jobs or programs available at Arizona at Work to help retrain him or her?
Yes, we do. So what we do is if they're wanting to go, say if they're over 10% or so, and they had a career field in the military that they really can't do on the outside, or say their disability rating prevents them from doing that job, you have vocational rehabilitation.
Okay.
You come in, you can apply for, I call it like GI Bill on steroids.
Now, is that voc rehab through the VA or is this voc rehab through a different program?
No, through the VA.
Through the VA, okay.
You do have state voc rehab as well, but normally with the veterans, we'll steer them towards VA voc rehab, lack of a better term. So you have that option. Then say, you know what, I was a truck driver in the Army, I didn't mind it. How do I get my CDL? So over Arizona at Work, any Arizona at Work throughout the state of Arizona, you have assistance if you qualify. Say, like I said, you just want to get your CDL. If you qualify, they'll send you to school and pay for it through no cost to you.
Wow.
So that is an option. Or if you need certifications or whatever. And if you're, say if you're a veteran who is under 23, 24, I believe, they have a youth program because we do have a lot of veterans that are young veterans.
Right.
So it's called Professional Youth Quest. And if you have questions about these programs, go to your local Arizona Work office.
See, that was going to be my next question. If our audience is watching this and they want to get more information on that, is there a website they can go to also?
You can contact myself or Kevin McFadden. We have offices in Sierra Vista, 2600 East Wilcox Drive. We have an office in Douglas. We have 2 offices in Safford. So for Cochise, Graham, and Greeley County, just go into your local Arizona Work office. If you're a veteran, ask for Kevin or myself. But if you're just trying to get basic information on training or things like that, just here in Sierra Vista, Monday through Friday, I tell people be at the office at 0850, sign in, and they do what they call an introduction, which is an overview of how you can qualify for training assistance.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
The office that's at 2600 Wilcox, isn't that next to the DAV and the nursing college?
So you go on in. We're right next door to the DAV.
To the DAV.
So if you
kill 2 birds with one stone, if you want.
That's why. So it's kind of funny because we'll get a client that comes in and say, "Hey, I got questions on disability. Hey, let's go to the DAV.
Yep.
Just go right next door.
door. That's awesome.
It is. It's kind of cool.
Oh, so do you have any last things that you'd like to share with us? Or
Well, one, thank you for having me on.
thanks for coming in. I appreciate it.
Being a veteran, it can be very challenging. There's so many aspects, and if you're that veteran that maybe just wants to talk, or you're looking for a job, or whatever, come down and see Kevin and myself. I know I made the comment the other day. I was talking to one of your guys' organizations, the case manager. He said, "Hey, don't hesitate to call me after work. If there's a client, boom, boom, boom. Oh, they blew up my phone." Which is awesome. But no, Kevin and I, if we don't have the answers, we'll get those. We'll find them. And don't hesitate to come down and we're here to help. If you're looking for work, or if you're just trying to figure out how do I go to school or whatever, come down to the center. Where Kevin and I are here Thursday, Fridays. If you come over to the other office, we will drop everything to work with that client.
I do know that for a fact because, like I said, I do the desk here on Friday, so I meet a lot of. So if you are a veteran and you're interested in talking with Jerry or Kevin at Arizona at Work, just come on down here to the Warrior Healing Center at 1838 Paseo San Luis. And does Arizona at Work, do you guys have like a contact phone number?
So over at our other office, it's 458-9309.
Okay.
And just ask for Jerry or Kevin.
Okay.
If you walk in, again, just ask for one of us.
And they can walk in here, right, at the center?
Yeah, just walk on in.
They don't have to have an appointment.
No. Kevin and I, we like doing appointments. However, walk-ins, if you just come on in.
All right. Well, Jerry, thank you again. Can you stick around for a few minutes while I do the announcements real quick?
Let's do it.
Let our veterans know what's going on here. Again, it's Friday. So what does that mean? That means hot soup. And we last week, I was kind of unofficially keeping track. We had 8 people come in just for the soup. I think that's pretty good.
It was really good, too.
And that's not counting veterans that come in for something else.
Exactly.
Oh, you've got soup? This was just for the soup. So
it's appropriate for the weather. A little chilly this morning. Come down and have some hot soup.
And the hot soup today is potato soup. I love potato soup. It's so good. So that's going to be today, starting at 1,100 hours. It's going to go to 1,600 hours today. Also today, starting at 1,500 hours, we've got the Gratitude Drum Circle. Will be out front playing their drums. Very soothing, very rhythmic. Pretty cool. And that goes from 1,500 to 1,700 hours. One thing I wanted to talk about here that I have highlighted, today at 1,600 hours at the Benson Community Food Pantry, they're doing a healthy cooking class, and this is at the Benson Food Pantry. It's right off of Interstate 10, I think, right in that area where you get off to come down to Fort Huachuca. My wife and I went a few months ago, and they take a food box of what a veteran would get, and then they actually show you how to create a meal out of it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, they took ramen, believe it or not, and made like a cold pasta, and I hate cold pasta, and I ate it, and daggone it, it was good.
It's kind of surprising what you can do with ramen.
Yeah, I was shocked. Who knew? Also, coming up tomorrow, starting at 09:30 to 10:30, we've got the Warrior Experience here at the Warrior Healing Center Recreation Room. And what that is it's a group that sits down and talks about the challenges that our veterans are facing today. So if you're interested in that group, it starts at 09:30 tomorrow right here at the Warrior Healing Center. Also on Saturday, starting at 1,300 hours and going to 1,500 hours, is the Cochise Lennox Users Group Club monthly meeting. And that's going to be held at 143rd Street Tacos. Also on Saturday, starting at 1,800 hours until they close, Team RWB, which is red, white, and blue. I had a really cool interview with Eric Ziva last week. So
nice.
Finally got him on the camera. So that's the Team RWB, it's Meet the Leaders, and that's going to be at Urbano. And Urbano, if you don't know where that's at, it's out on South Highway 92. Also on Sunday, on Sunday, starting at 0900, it's going to be the Team RWB Trail Run, and that's going to be Fairbank. Hopefully you guys know what Fairbank is, because I don't. The only Fairbank I know of is Alaska.
It's kind of cool if you go up, drive out there. It's not far from here. Fairbanks is kind of neat.
Is it? Where is it?
It's on San Pedro.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's an old, I want to say, ghost town, and behind it was a old mining site where they would, what do you want to call it, break down the ore and stuff into a smelter, I guess.
Wow.
And there's an old cemetery on top of the hill, beautiful trail, and not basically a direct shot is an old, well, it's not there. It's only the dirt embankment, but an old Spanish fort.
Wow.
And in the ghost town, they actually have a model of what the fort looked like. Kind of neat.
I'm going to have to Google that and check that out for myself. That's interesting. So on Monday, January 24th, starting at 1730, is the 5 Treasures of Qigong. Can never say that word right sometimes. And that goes till 1830. On Tuesday, January 25th, starting at 0900, going to noon, and then again at 1300 to 1600 hours, we have the Healing with Art, Tantalizing Tunnel Books here at the Warrior Healing Center main conference room. I'm not very good at art, but I like to watch those.
I can draw a mean stick pert figure.
Can you? Oh, I can too.
Oh, that's bad. Mine
figures,
are badass.
Yeah. Pretty good. I think I learned mine from playing Hangman.
Yeah.
So, and then Thursday, January 27th, starting at 1830, going to 1930, we have the Warrior Headspace and Timing. That's a PTSD support group here at the Warrior Healing Center.
And timing. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then the last one I got on the list here is Sunday, January 30th at 1000 hours to 1100 hours is the Team RWB Tranquility Yoga, and that's going to be taking place at the Sierra Vista Mall. And I also want to throw out one other one because I do like to get them a little bit of airtime here is the Velo Vets group ride. Stu Carter runs the Velo Vets, and they're having a group ride Saturday, January 29th, starting at 1000 hours, and that will be meeting at the Pueblo del Sol Country Club parking lot.
Nice.
That's it for today. So thank you, everybody, for joining. Appreciate it very much. Jerry, again, thank you so much for sitting down and sharing your story. And
thank you.
And I appreciate the interview. Thank you very much. Everybody, again, have a great weekend.
Have a good day.
Don't forget to come down for the hot soup, too.